Hello. Today we will be discussing Stage 3 of the Understanding by Design template. This is the stage where you plan learning experiences for the unit which you have built through stages 1 and 2. So let's get into it. In Stage 3, we are actually asked to plan out in more detail the unit which we have started describing through Stage 1 and Stage 2. In Stage 3, we begin by writing learning objectives based off of the SMART template, which is that we are writing learning objectives that are specific, measurable, attainable, results-focused, and time-focused. More importantly, we are building this entire stage off of the where to, where each letter is designated to something specific. For instance, W is where is the unit going and what is expected. The H is hook and hold. The first E is equip your students and help them experience the key ideas and explore the issues. R is rethink, revise, and refine. The second E is evaluate. The T, tailored to differentiate learning. And the O is organized towards learner-centered strategies. It seems very complex, and in truth it is, but once you start to deal with it piece by piece, it starts to outlay very nicely. So let's get into it. We start with the learning objectives, which, as we mentioned, were written on the SMART template. Moving on from there, in that same category, in the W category, we have relevance. So let's back up. We're writing the learning objectives, and then we are showing the relevance of these learning objectives. Specifically, what are the benefits to the students by completing this unit? How will they benefit from learning this material? It seems self-explanatory, but to really put it down on paper really makes you think about what the relevance is. And it really sets the tone, even more so than the learning objectives, for how you will approach this section. In that same W category, we get to diagnosis. How will you know what they know before the lesson and what they know after the lesson? How will you test for misconceptions? Now, for some units, this may be very easy, and some units, this may be extremely difficult. For my personal unit, I developed a unit on Adobe Photoshop. So it was a little more cut and dried from the beginning, but as I started to write it out and think about it, there are greater photography and design theories, if you will, that really needed to be brought out in the unit. And how would I test for them? And this became very difficult, actually. Moving on to the H, we get to hook and hold. And this is simply how you will hook and hold your students' interest. And this can be anything. For me, in my Adobe Photoshop unit, I would describe how during the O.J. Simpson trial, Time magazine posted a photo which edited O.J. Simpson in a much darker and more menacing manner, thereby swaying public opinion. This was an ethics violation. And these are the greater, more essential questions that I'm trying to uncover for my students. In that same section, we talk about technology. How will technology be used in the unit to hook your students and get them interested or engaged? Now, for some units, this may be more difficult. If your subject is mainly text-based, how will you use technology? Will you use computer-based games? Will you use some sort of online blog? There's a multitude of answers to this. And it should be stated that there is a million different answers to each one of these. There is no cut and dried right or wrong answer to these. I mean, after all, you are the one planning this unit. Then we get to the first E, which is equip your students. Help them experience the key ideas and explore the issues. How will they uncover the meaning of the unit? Now, this is where it gets more and more difficult. I had several answers that ranged from very easy to very complex. For instance, in my unit on Adobe Photoshop, how would I help them? How would I equip them? I would present students with predetermined photographs and allow them to manipulate and crop them in their own way with a focus on expressing an idea or a feeling. Again, in another way, students would be allowed to refocus their efforts on personal imagery throughout the class, further refining the images to tell a specific story, represent a specific feeling, or generate a specific idea in the viewer. You can get as deep as the ocean or as shallow as a puddle here. Moving on from this section, we are asked to revise and refine. How will the students have opportunities to rethink, revise, and refine their work in the unit? Again, this seems very, very easy, but it's not. You really have to put some thought into it. For me personally, I put that students will use photos in the public sphere and write a short response on how the image could be manipulated in a more appropriate manner, evaluating how it could be made more effective or determinative of what the student believes the artist was trying to say. You must give them time to rework these ideas and solidify them in their own mind, internalize them, if you will. Which brings us right into reflecting and self-regulating, or reflect and self-regulate on the form. How will students have time to improve their metacognition and self-regulation skills? For me personally, I ask the students to keep a journal, which is submitted to the instructor electronically, which also brings technology back into the mix, which this journal that I was asking the students to create detailed the process of editing that they engaged in throughout the week, tying the whole course together. And then we get into the evaluation section, which goes back into the where to overall acronym, and we're asking for formative feedback. How will students get formative feedback so they can improve their work and move forward toward mastering the learning objectives? Remembering that formative feedback is feedback that lets both the student and the instructor know where the student is at in the learning process. After we get through these multiple answer sections of the stage 3, we get to some very specific questions. How will your unit be tailored to differentiate learning? Specifically, how will this unit be organized to allow for a technology-enhanced learning experience that uses differentiation, including adjusting content, processes, product, and learning environment based on the student's levels of learning or learning styles, interest, and personal goals? Remember, each student is different. So this is going to be where you will put how you will differentiate for each individual student. Moving on to the O in where to. How will your unit be organized using learner-centered strategies? These could be things like case studies, discussion, or experiments, all which are learner-centered strategies. How will your unit be organized to be authentic? Specifically, how will this unit research real-world problems, collaborate with others, or produce products that are meaningful and useful to a wide audience? And this could be difficult with a unit that is centered along the lines of something like math, maybe. But in a more vocational unit, this could be a little easier. How will your unit be organized to bring out the higher order skills and mental habits of mind? For my unit particularly, I put that all content within the unit is designed for freedom of expression and artistic exploration. This assessment of the student content is designed with an eye on design theory application as well as procedure and technique. Students are given photographs and allowed to generate imagery. Well, you get the picture. This is more than just teaching facts. Finally, how will your unit be organized to assess student learning And how will your unit be organized to use technology to analyze data? Again, this whole unit seems very easy, but it is actually very deep. As you can see through this brief walkthrough of the third stage of the UbD template, this is not for the faint of heart. This information gets very deep very quickly. However, if you follow through with the information in the manner that the template was designed, the results can be spectacular. It really emphasizes the point that you are teaching to imbue concepts into the student, not just simply giving them facts which they have to regurgitate. I'm Jeremy Segrist, and this is the third stage of the UbD template. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.